What's up? I've analyzed all of my winning ads over all my time in Ecom, and I've noticed 5 common things that every single ad that did super well and that actually scaled had in common, right? So I made a winning variables sheet, which you should have as well, right? You should always, every single time you test an ad, put in the stuff, the actual variables that you tested, and then actually what metrics you got from them, especially having like one page of the sheet at least for all the winning stuff, right? It doesn't matter if it's ad copy, if it's like basically primary text, description, or headline, but it's all the way to like every single part of the hook. So visual hook, audio hook, text hook, everything that's essentially happening in the ad can be broken down to these smallest variables, and you should write down everything that did well, okay? And then after some time, you're just gonna, basically throw some variables together. Technically on paper, all of your ads would have to be winning. Then obviously it's not the truth, but this is the best way to increase the hit rates on your ads, okay? So I'm going to give you guys 5 mechanisms or 5 things that you can do in your ads to immediately make more money, because this has helped me, and I've basically recognized this over hundreds of ads. I'm just giving it to you for free, so here you go, right? First thing is a pattern interrupt, right? And usually when people scroll, it's kind of like always the same thing, right? You go through something, or let's say only talking about ads, right? It's every single time the same thing. You see some creator, some beauty product, and then you see like, you see POV, blah, blah, blah. And it's always the same exact thing. You have to do something totally unexpected. Like the best ads that I've ever had where something super random, super weird, or super funny happened in the visual hook, right? So for example, if you have an ad for a hair curl or something, let's say you have an ad for a hair product or something like that, and the visual hook is literally someone with like completely crazy hair, like completely going close to the camera, and her face and her hair fills out all the frame. That is something which totally interrupts everything else, and so not only hooks more people and gets more people into the top of funnel, but the retention throughout the entire ad gets higher, just because this, like, oh my god, what the hell is this, like, unconsciously stop scrolling. That is what you have to understand and master, and that is really what makes a really good hook, a pattern interrupt, okay? And throughout all of your ads, you have to interrupt your patterns, and when everyone else is doing A, you do B. Very important in e-com marketing in general, okay? Now, the second thing is a curiosity gap. And so what a curiosity gap essentially is you open up a loop at some part of the app, don't reveal the second half of it, right? So for example, you could say, blurred, you could say this solution helped me fix it, right? Let's say you talk about a problem, I had terrible acne, but this helped me fix it. But you blur the product in the hook, right? You have a hand model footage, like a B-roll footage, but it's blurred, and people don't know what the solution is. And you don't answer it until they have to really click or at least watch 30 seconds to 60 seconds of the entire ad to actually know what it's about, right? This is the best way to increase the retention throughout your entire thing. So let's say you track your metrics and you see, okay, well, there's a big drop off between hook and 25%, or in any other part of the ad. Let's say it's a big drop off between 50 and 75% of the video views, right? Then you gotta know like how to properly make those people, how to keep those people hooked, right? Because you can imagine an ad like a combination of multiple, like, very, very short cycles, right? So the first cycle is the hook, but there's basically mini hooks happening all the way throughout your ad, up until the very last second. You always the same process. Like you kind of hook their attention, and then you answer, and then you give them a little bit of value. You hook their attention, value, hook, value, hook, value. But you can't do hook, value, 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 because then they get bored and don't click and just scroll off, right? That's when ads fail. But if you always hook them, if you always open up loops, especially multiple, because they kind of get overwhelmed subconsciously, then they have to click to find out what exactly it's about, right? So do that, include that in all of your ads. I guarantee you will increase your entire CTRs, you will increase the conversion rates on your ads, and everything will go up, all right? Trust me. Now, number 3 is fear of missing out. And this is probably something which you already know, which you've probably already heard of, but this is such a powerful marketing tool that I think most people are just not talking about enough. Even though it's already a pretty popular tool to use, it's not used enough. In my opinion, doing fear of missing out, especially in terms of social proof, but it's like really, especially focusing on the fear of missing out, right? Not only like, oh, hey, look, other people have made it work too. No, like, this is almost sold out and we're never restocking type of thing. All right. So this is the type of fear of missing out that actually works super well. Right. So for example, another line of text that, you could use is like, over XYZ people are using it and not going back. Right. This is also something which, like, oh my God, okay, I'm actually missing something here. This is like a new thing. I'm actually, I'm actually behind. That's the feeling you're trying to create. You want to create the feeling that the people, basically the prospects that are watching your ads, are behind, are actually missing out on something, right? And that is usually when you make a really, really good ad, because usually always just over on all of your ads, one thing which you're trying to deliver, or one thing which you're trying to create, is fear, right? You're trying to create fear in any type of way, or any type of negative emotion, unfortunately, because that's the type of ad that works super well. I know a lot of people talk about ethical ads and kind of want to, market with positive emotions, but it's a lot easier to hop on the negative ones and dig in the pain deeper and deeper and actually twist the knife, right? That is what you have to do. That is marketing. You can't just like show them a picture, hey, here's my product. Maybe for most aware people that works, but if you're actually trying to convert an unaware person, you have to create the problem in the first place. And all these mechanisms are really good ways to do that, okay? So keep that in mind. Obviously use it ethically, right? So if you have an actual good product in ecom, I'm not talking about some stupid random dropshipping stuff that doesn't even work, but if you actually have a good product, if you actually put effort and work and time into developing a good product, so not only product research but also product development, right, then you absolutely can use these, negative marketing emotion mechanisms, I would call them, because like they just increase the likelihood that someone buys. And if you actually want to help someone out, if your intention is actually that your product is delivering value, like real actual value, and not just don't give a fuck about your customers the second that they bought, then these things are actually extremely good. Use these carefully, all right? That's what I'm trying to say. Now, the second thing is, and this is probably the most powerful one throughout this entire list here, and that is the fear of loss. And specifically talking about the three human desires here, right? So there's health, there's wealth, and there's the relationships. If you're talking about the fear, if you're really digging deep into the fear of losing one of these or all multiple of these, that's when you usually hook a person really well, and that's where you can make a lot of money, right? Especially for example, rich people, if they're afraid of losing their wealth, right? For old people, they're afraid of losing their health. For people that are in fresh relationships and maybe are a little bit jealous, they're really afraid of losing their relationships, right? And you can make a lot of money from these fears, and you should, okay? Once again, not the most ethical way to market, but it just works, okay? And just do it, because at the end of the day, bro, at the end of the day, it's like across all of my ads that I've analyzed, across every single script that I've made and that I've written and that I kind of just went through once again, basically looking at my winning variable sheet, I've realized that fear of loss was a huge one, right? A huge one. It doesn't matter what you're selling. Essentially, if you're selling, I don't know, a back stretcher product, right? You could talk about the fear of, losing their health in terms of their back pain, right? Wealth, the same thing. Relationships, obviously the same thing. And so you should always talk about these things and always really go deep into the fear. So fear of missing out and fear of loss, if you combine them, insane, all right? And the last variable here is that there was urgency in every single ad, right? There's no ad that I've had that was winning that had no urgency. It doesn't matter if it was in the hook, in the call to action, throughout some part of the body, there was always some part of urgency, some very, very, very bad, some very, very aggressive urgency factor. And it can be really creative. It doesn't have to be, sale ends at midnight. That works too. Don't get me wrong. Sale ends at midnight and the call to action works super well as urgency. But if you look at what some big brands are doing, let's say Mercedes, they're doing like the last pre-tariff buy possibilities. So last couple Mercedes in America that have been imported without tariffs are actually this is like a really good way of doing urgency, because like these are the last ones, right? There's nothing else here, and after that you're gonna pay more, right? Once again, they combine fear of loss because they're going to fear, like they're going to lose more money, literally lose more money, and combine that with urgency. So you can get really creative and essentially combine urgency with all of these things, and that's how you make a lot of money. In fact, the more urgency you have in your ad, I see a direct correlation between the urgency and the money, or the ROAS, or the scalability of that ad, right? And so the other best ways to actually figure out what hooks are going to work, so the other ways to actually increase your hit rates on your ads is actually testing blank image ads. Now you maybe have I've maybe heard me talk about this before, but one thing which I like to add onto this whole concept of, testing a bunch of different just images, blank white image ads with black text on it, which is only the hook, just to see which one has the highest CTR, not actually purchases. You're still optimizing for purchases, don't get me wrong, but you're still, once the ads are actually running, right, you're looking for the highest CTRs. And then all you got to do then is put those on the actual right video ads or whatever, on the right image ads as headlines to actually increase the hit rates on those. So you do this like as a pre-creative test, right? Works really well, works again and again. I do this with all the people I work with, but you've got to figure out one thing here, right? Imagine you run the hook test and nothing really hits. You don't get your like 5, 6, 7% CTRs and what you're actually looking for. Well, in that case, you got to do iterations. So there's not only iterations that you can do on the actual ads once they're running, you can do iterations on these hook tests too. So let's say this one is the best one. Well, then you do iterations and you can do that again and again and again. And you go closer and deeper every single time into what worked a little bit to make it better and better and better, and essentially retest very, very quickly, very, very frequently. Okay, so this is the best way to increase your hit rates in every single ad, and you have to implement this right away. Now, if you made it so far in the video, I want to reward you a little bit by giving you a hack which is immediately going to increase your ROAS by 20 to 30%. If that happens, and then come back to this video and subscribe to this channel. All right, if I promise me you're going to do that because you have nothing to lose, right? So I want you to take your best performing ads and send them. Let's say this is your ad right here, and instead of sending them to your product page immediately, which is what you're doing right now, or your advertorial stuff, your funnel stuff, whatever, I want you to go ahead and just send it to a collection page. A collection page with multiple products on it. Specifically what it should look like, it should basically be up here. It should be your hero product, so the one that which you see in the ads, right? This is your hero product, and then besides that, it's a more expensive bundle with other products that make sense to buy extra for that too, right? So this is a more expensive one, and then after this, these are just like the other products. Okay, so boom, 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 the more the better, right? The point is, collection page starting with your hero product, and then basically an expensive bundle after that, and everything else doesn't really matter. Now, what this is going to do, this is going to increase, first of all, your conversion rate, because this is already kind of a little bit of like almost like a listicle approach of basically, hey, we're not aggressively pushing and throwing the offer at your faces. We're giving you the choice. And basically, it's going to increase your AOV because a lot of people are going to actually, in fact, click on the more expensive bundle and actually take that, right? If you're not doing this yet, this is immediately going to increase your ROAS by like 20 to 30%. Once again, take your best ads right now and just do this. Just try this. I promise you, like literally, let's make a deal out of this. If it works for you, come back to this video and subscribe to the channel. All right, let's make a deal out of it. I've tried it with a couple people that I work with, and it works incredibly well. All right, so go ahead and do this. But that's pretty much it. Like, this is gonna be a pretty short video, just full of value, full packed, unedited or barely edited. I don't even give a shit. Like, go ahead and if you liked it, go ahead and write your main takeaway into the comments. Try everything. If you're not gonna execute anything in this video, then you've wasted these 15 minutes. All right, so go ahead and execute on it. But I want to say thank you so much for giving me your most important asset, which is your time and your attention. I wish you a beautiful day.